Welcome to a special edition of the Yardman podcast with Davain and Tonil, as per usual, the number one Jamaican podcast in Murcia, Spain.
Number one
Number
Jamaican
one.
podcast in Europe.
And we're going for the world. And speaking of the world, today we'll be tackling some global issues. Even though it's based in America, a lot of our fan base are Jamaicans, are people living in the US that are impacted by several global issues. One of those issues is immigration. We are immigrants living in Spain, and we've been welcomed by the Spanish people, by the Spanish government. Thank you so much for that piece of card that allows me to live here and enjoy the luxuries that life has to offer here.
Yes, King
You know,
Felipe.
Yes, it has become my second home. And trust me, I cherish it as much as I cherish Jamaica. So much respect to the Spanish people. Today we have a veteran attorney who has been in the industry for over 40 plus years. He is a former UN correspondent. And if you know, that's a big thing. That's not everyone gets that honor. He has helped over 10,000 people. I don't like saying clients. I like saying people because they are human beings. And in his field, helping 10,000 people with immigration has been something phenomenal. I can recall living here and going through my immigration issues. And that's something that keeps people up at night. Not many people understands the stress that it brings on someone about the uncertainty of living in a country that is not your own, with the inability to make money legally above table, being able to provide for your family, not only in the country that you're living, but mostly in the country that you're leaving or fleeing in some cases. And Andy has helped over 10,000 people with this. He also is a Forbes writer. In our little introduction before this, he was telling me that he was writing an article about the recent changes in the Trump policies as well. So I'm pretty sure I've left out some of his accolades, but this man is an expert in the field. And if you're just tuning in, get locked in, drop some questions in the comments that you have for him. And I'm sure that he might have some questions for us as well. As you know, with the Yardman podcast, Tony, we just try to keep it conversational. We don't want it to be a situation where we're talking and no one understands what we're saying. So Andy has agreed to set aside some of the jargons, and put it down to earth so me and Tony can comprehend what he's saying. You know what I mean?
In layman's terms.
Happy
Yeah.
to be here
Yeah.
with you, to talk with you guys, share some insights, hopefully with you. And you're very curious people, because I've never met Jamaicans who live like in Spain. That's like, it's a surprise. Who would have thought?
We're a
But-
rarity.
Yes.
It's neat, and the mere fact that you're broadcasting from Spain all over the world is another, curiosity, really. And I compliment you for that. That's really great.
The world has provided us with technology, so we have to make use of it. And Spain has provided us with a home and the facilities to do that. Ever thankful for Spain. And
Say where you are. What city are you in?
We're in Murcia, Spain.
You're in Murcia, yeah.
We're in the south of Spain, the hottest part of Spain.
Yeah.
Part of Spain that the rest of Spain looks down on.
Are you on the ocean or not?
30 minutes away from the ocean.
Yeah.
So not too far.
It's a beautiful country. I was just there, I don't know, maybe about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we traveled right through where you are.
Yeah, through Murcia. What was your favorite part? Did you
I'll
try the
tell you
tapas
what
here?
happened to me while I was there. I was driving a Tesla. I never had a Tesla car before.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And rented. And we're riding there. And roughly somewhere there we stopped for coffee. And then we're trying to start the car. We couldn't start the car. We didn't know how to start the car.
Oh,
Wow.
It had a card, and I guess you were supposed to use the card sort of like a
key.
like a credit card key kind of thing.
Ah.
And
Yeah.
we couldn't figure. My wife and I spent like 2 hours trying to figure out how to start this darn car. And finally we
Wow.
started it. And we said, okay, that's it. We don't want this car anymore.
Were you able to find charging spots?
Well, that was part of the problem. In Spain, the
yeah.
charging spots are not all the same. Like there's like 5 different, I guess, companies offering them. So if you don't have the right company or, the right connection, you're in trouble.
Or you have to book
We
them
had that
ahead.
issue too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting better now. It's getting better now
it?
because a lot of companies they're just putting them, like, if let's say I have a commercial property, like I own a hotel, I
Yeah.
can just go to electric company and say I want to put a charging port outside of it and just get a percentage of that as well to set it
I
up.
think we ultimately changed. I think it was in Valencia that we changed cars or something. I don't remember. But we went right through there on our way to Barcelona.
What was your favorite part of Spain?
Well, I'm used to Barcelona now because I've been there twice. So I kind of like it. But I like the ocean side, the whole area there, that plaza area. That's beautiful.
It is a beautiful place. And you grew up where did you grow up, Andy? Like, tell
I
me
was
about
born and
yourself.
raised. Yeah, I was born. By the way, my name is Andy Semotiuk. That's
Yeah,
my full name.
Andy Semotiuk.
And I work with Pace Law Firm in Toronto.
Oh shoot, we have to big them up. Big up Pace Law Firm for allowing us to take hour of billing time from them.
No problem. So I grew up in Canada. I was born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta. Now we talked before we came on the air with you, Devane, and you know someone from Edmonton or who lived in Edmonton. It's a small town. It's about 1 million people. It's very far north.
A million people.
Yeah.
Cold.
A small town.
It's Canada, bro. It's big. Canada is big. Canada is big.
But the thing about it is it's ice cold up there. Like in the winter, you can't start your car in the morning because it's frozen. You have to have a block heater in your car and plug it in every night. So in the morning when you go out to start your car, you can start your car. Otherwise, you got nothing. It just doesn't work. It's totally frozen. And the windshield is frozen with frost. So you have to pull out your credit card and scrape the frost off the window so you can go anywhere. And I went to school in Edmonton. I went to St. Joe's High School, which people from Edmonton would know. And I remember one day going to school and it was 50 below. It was more than 50 below zero.
What?
It was so cold that I could hear the sap in the trees freezing. You could hear this cracking sound of the trees freezing. And if you spit, before the liquid landed on the ground, it froze.
Sounds like heaven.
So it's like hell. Sounds like a version of hell that I never want to visit. So
it's either heaven or hell. I'm not sure which.
I don't think I could do it. I can barely survive 0 degrees here. So how did you get into law, Andy? Like, how did you transition into law?
Well, I grew up in Edmonton. Now I had a cousin. I had a aunt, my mother's sister, aunt or aunt, whatever which you want to, who lived in Los Angeles, in California, and my mother and I and my father lived in Edmonton, in Canada. So I traveled back and forth. And over time, as I was growing up, there were 2 sort of areas that influenced me. One is immigration, because we were immigrants. I wasn't. I was born in Canada. But both my mother and my aunt, her sister, immigrated from Ukraine, where my background is Ukrainian. Every person has a background from somewhere. We all come from somewhere. You guys came from Jamaica. I came from, my background's Ukrainian. And so there were 2 aspects to that. The first aspect is we're immigrants, like you guys, in Spain. So I had to learn, your life and how to live and integrate and so on, make a go of it. So immigration became an interesting topic to me. or it was just natural. It's just sort of like secondary. It's like eating. You don't think about it, you just eat. Same was true for immigration. But the other thing was, to this very day, Ukraine has always been politically a charged place. Right now, there's a war going on in Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine, and they're trying to basically flatten the country. And so an interest I had growing up was, how could I solve international problems like the war, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia? And I thought, if only they knew the law, if I could study the law and write it out for them, explain it, I could go to these leaders and I could say, listen, wait, stop fighting. Here, look at the law. The law says this, this, and this. And they'd all go, oh, of course. Yes, you're right. We got to stop fighting. We'll put down
They
our
know
guns.
the law. They already know it.
Yeah, we'll put down our guns. Don't worry. Yeah, that's right. But little did I know about human nature, greed and avarice and, selfishness and wealth and power and all that stuff. So it's not just about the law. There's a lot more human, the human existence. And so I went to law school thinking that I would learn more about the latter part, about being a diplomat. I thought maybe I could be a great leader, a liberal kind of a guy, meaning a democratic leader, and solve world problems. Well, little did I know that's not the way it's going to work. And that's not where I would end up. Well, I did. I ended up at the UN. That's how I ended up. But I ended up as a journalist at the UN. In terms of immigration, I ended up as an immigration attorney, like I am, because of my interest in background in immigration.
Okay.
I have a small question. Where you grew up, was it a place that like a lot of immigrants were?
Yes, a lot of. Yeah.
Where would you get people coming from, for example?
Well, I'll tell you, I knew some. Well, I don't know if I knew Jamaicans there. I met Jamaicans later in Canada. I've got some good friends who are Jamaicans. But there were immigrants from all over the world, like French, German, Ukrainian, Italian, Polish.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you something interesting, perhaps from your point of view. One of my high school teachers was Rolly Miles. Now, that means nothing to you. But Rolly Miles was a great football player. And he played for the Edmonton Eskimos. Yeah. And he was black, and there weren't many blacks in Edmonton. I'll give you that. There weren't that many. But I got to know, him not that well. He didn't know who the hell I am. I'm just one of the. I was trying to get into the football team, but I was useless. I couldn't catch a ball. I couldn't run. I couldn't do anything. So, but anyway, he left an impression on my life, though. And it was his fair-mindedness and courage that I was impressed with. And how you're kid, like you're vulnerable and you have to look up to people. So he was one guy that I really looked up. When I learned Rolly Miles is in high school, like he's teaching about, like for me.
We all have that one. We all have that one person that we emulate. We try to emulate. Do you still have someone that you look up to?
Do I still have?
Yeah, who's the guy that you look up to, or the woman or the person that you look up to now?
At the moment, someone alive. I have someone who's passed on, but right at the moment.
You can maybe tell us both.
Volodymyr Zelenskyy. This man is extraordinary person, absolutely extraordinary. To lead a country that's being, like bombed daily. I mean, it's obliterated. They're trying to obliterate the whole country.
Yeah.
And stand up to that bully and try and defend themselves there. It's he's someone worth emulating and reading about. And now, I'll
It
tell you a
seems
little
so. It
story
seems
about
so.
him. I knew of him because he was running for president of Ukraine. And
Ah,
I didn't support him. I thought, oh, no, that guy's no good. He was by the way, he's a lawyer as well.
Yeah.
He got a law degree, and then he went into comedy. He's a comedian. He had his own
I
TV show.
don't see him smiling at all. He's a serious man. He's very stoic.
No, but he was a comedian. And I thought, I don't want to, I don't think a president should be a comedian. Like, that's ridiculous. Plus,
There's a certain country with one though.
he didn't speak Ukrainian well. He grew up in Ukraine. He's a very interesting person. He's Jewish in background, like his parents, and his background is Jewish. But he was born in Ukraine. He's fully Ukrainian. His religion is Jewish, but he's Ukrainian. And he grew up in a Russian-speaking area of Ukraine, and he learned Ukrainian to become the president of Ukraine. And now he speaks Ukrainian, and that's amazing. And the reason he spoke Russian, first language, was because Ukraine was occupied by the Russians. And it was natural. In large parts of Ukraine, people spoke Russian because, well, Russia was in power and all the goodies came from Russia. So he spoke Russian.
So you could say he's been fighting against them since he was a youth, and he's understood the struggle.
Yeah.
Since we're on the topic, and it's a very big topic, and how do you feel about how the global policies, how the world leaders or the allies are treating him, particularly the most recent instance in the White House? What are your views on that?
That was a catastrophe. It was a catastrophe. He did not merit the attack that they made on him. He merited respect from those leaders. First of all, just a few comments on that. First of all, J.D. Vance says, you're not thankful. You should be more thankful. He started the meeting by thanking them for being there. He said that's how he started the meeting. And at every meeting he's ever been in the United States, he says, thank you, America, for the help. Thanks for everything, the president and everybody. He's thankful all over the place. But they don't understand. The problem was them, not him. He doesn't need to be thankful. I'll tell you why. When the Soviet Union fell apart in 1991, Ukraine broke off from the Soviet Union, and it became the third largest nuclear. It had the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world, larger than many of the other big powers like France, Germany, whoever had nuclear weapons. And out of concern, America, the UK, and Russia and Ukraine had a meeting, and they said, I'll tell you what, you surrender your nuclear arsenal, and we will guarantee your independence and sovereignty. That was in Budapest in 1994. And the US and UK and Russia and Ukraine, and also China and France, signed what's called the Budapest Memorandum, where they guaranteed Ukraine's independence and sovereignty. The US guaranteed Ukraine's independence and sovereignty. So what happened? 10 years, well, actually, it's 13 years ago, Russia invaded Ukraine. And 3 years ago, it became an all-out invasion of Ukraine, contrary to the memorandum. So the U.S. has been helping Ukraine, as have the English, well, the British, out of a duty signed in a memorandum. And the reason they signed the memorandum, because they were afraid of nuclear war. Yeah. Why should Ukraine have nuclear arms? Surrender your arms. They said, okay, we'll surrender them, but you have to guarantee our. So they avoided a nuclear war by signing that agreement and making that promise. And today, Russia's invading Ukraine with the same nuclear weapons that Ukraine surrendered to them in 1994. That's why he doesn't need to apologize.
I know Russia has the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that we know of. That we know of.
That we know.
What would you say would have been a better interaction in that meeting, or do you think it was pre-planned? Like this was somewhat of a sabotage to negotiate more in favor of America? Yeah.
Okay. The deal here is Ukraine is one of the richest countries in the world. We're way off topic here on immigration.
No. We will. I'm interested in this because I follow it. So we will jump into the 4 more minutes on this, and then we go into immigration for people that are tuning in for immigration.
Here's the deal. Ukraine has $27 trillion worth of rare resources. Ukraine, the population of Ukraine after the breakup of the Soviet Union was around 40 million people. It's down now to about, 30 million because of the war.
Yeah.
And this 27 trillion consists of Crimea, which alone has something like $2 trillion worth of resources offshore, oil, gas, and other rare minerals in particular. So when Biden left office, Biden was a big supporter of NATO, Ukraine, and peace in the world by standing together against bullies and dictators, etc. Meaning Putin and Russia, China, Xi and China, North Korea, and that guy out there with the nuclear arms that is gone. I don't know what's going with that guy. Those kind of countries.
Mm-hmm.
And the argument there was, we defend the international rules-based order. We defend democracy. If a country elects a leader, we respect that election. When Trump came into power, the rules changed. And Zelenskyy had to present another reason why America should support Ukraine. Because this argument about the Budapest Memorandum, Trump didn't care about the Budapest Memorandum. He
cares about profit.
Yeah,
profit only, yeah.
So Zelenskyy went to him and said, okay, look, we got all these minerals. If you support us and guarantee our independence, we'll sign a deal with you to use the minerals. And Trump liked that, and that's what was supposed to happen at that meeting in Washington. But that's not what happened. And the reason it didn't happen is because Zelenskyy said, listen, well, first of all, he was warned by Lindsey Graham, a senator, before the meeting. He says, don't raise the issue of guarantees. Don't even raise it. Don't raise it. And then he got into the meeting, and the discussion kind of flared up, and he says, they said, well, sign the agreement. And he says, no, I'm concerned about guarantees. I'll sign the agreement, but what good is it if they're going to invade us and level the country? It's not about the agreement. They've already signed a ton of agreements with Russia, but the Russians aren't abiding by the agreement.
Yeah,
it's about enforcement. We need to enforce the agreements, and they didn't like that. The guys in the White House did not like that. Oh, who are you? You're trying to cause World War III. Who do you think you're talking to? Well, who do you think you're talking to, morally speaking?
Yeah.
Anyway,
and I can see it. And I can see that. I can see where it makes no sense to sign a contract with someone if they're not going to there's no good faith. There's you're negotiating without good faith. One guy is comfortable coming out tomorrow and say, hey, yeah, I said I would sign that, but I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Where's the honor in it? There is a lack of honor if you bring it down.
There you go. And that's what's good about you kind of people. You're honorable.
Yeah.
You see? You're living by the rules. You're making a life for yourselves. Tonil has a family. I know he's got a kid somewhere in there. Has to feed,
yeah,
has to feed the
yeah,
kid.
Yes,
It's a
yes, of
reason for
course.
living.
yeah,
Reason for living.
yeah.
Good
Yes.
for you.
Honor is very big, and
Uh,
clearly, that is something in short supply in this world. It's more about profit, especially when you
yeah,
see who is in power. But just to jump into our topic, sharp jump. The
sure.
new immigration policies that Donald Trump, President Trump has set out. What are some of them, and what do you think is going to be the impact of some of them on immigrants and the world, possibly?
Yeah. Let's talk about that, and I want to also touch on your situation in Europe in
Yeah,
terms of immigrants and so on as well in a minute. But let's go to this one first. Oh, look, I think it's
Bianca
your
is
daughter.
there.
Is it your daughter or
Funny behind you, Bianca is there.
Yeah.
hello? Anyway, okay.
She
So
vexed.
uh, it looks like President Trump and the administration uh, is not very happy about the situation with immigration
Mhm.
in the United States. They want to build a wall on the southern border because they feel there are too many people uh, coming in from the south illegally. And but the most important aspect, I would say, of his policy, or the most concerning aspect, is the intolerance, the apparent hatred, the disgust that they seem to have with immigrants in general, not just people who have not abided by the law or done something wrong, but just with immigrants in general. So, for example, there are 11 million immigrants in the United States who are there roughly uh, without legal status. They call these undocumented immigrants. Many of them, in fact, 2/3, I believe, of them have been in the United States for over 10 years and are leading normal lives. Some of them are DACA uh, uh, children who came with their parents to the United States, so-called DACA.
Mhm.
Dreamers, there's another name for them. There were children when they arrived in the United States, and they have semi-legal status right now with work permits.
Mhm.
Uh, but there's this 11 million category of people that makes Trump and the MAGA group very angry. They don't like them. They want to get rid of them. In fact, they're dedicated to deporting all of them. Now,
Do you think that's a good economic move? Deporting 11 million people that could possibly be converted to tax-paying citizens?
well, they are, for the most part, they are tax-paying citizens. Well, not
Ah,
citizens, but taxpayers.
okay.
Uh, and uh, here's the problem. The first problem is it's probably technically a mission impossible to just pick up 11 million people and deport them.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. There's a variety of, and I'll just run through them very quick. This is like a fast forward through the issue of why
Yeah.
it's not feasible to do it. Number one reason is that the countries from where they came aren't all waiting for these people to return and come on back, to wherever, Venezuela, Cuba, Haiti, and so on. And they have to get permission to send these people back to the countries where they came from. And there's a reason why those people left those countries and came to the United States. And the reason is life was torture wherever they came from, largely either because of war, gangs, pestilence, hunger, economic disaster, etc. So just getting someone, like, even if they could gather all 11 million and say, okay, everybody goes to the country where you came from, it's a nightmare trying to get permission, and the logistics of getting them back is a nightmare. That's number one. Number two, of these 11 million people, as I mentioned, about 2/3 probably, well over a majority, have lived in the United States for over 10 years. 10 years is a long time. There's a thing called, the equities the equities. You deserve over time, you earn respect if you work hard and live by the law, other than that they came in or are there without legal, authority. The mere fact, like even if they did come unlawfully, the mere fact that they've been there for 10 years and have children that were born there, or spouses that they married, and the contributions they've made in terms of tax payments, in terms of being members of communities, the churches, and so on, have to be accounted in the equation. Like they
Their
have to
entire
take account,
integration.
in terms of their integration in the United States. Now, you could say, well, these people jumped the gun. They jumped the line and they came to the front of the line while the people who wanted to come legally stood in line for years before they were allowed into the country. You can't allow these people. You have to send them back. Well, you could say that, but here's the problem with that. After 10 years, the people who were in line are probably by now in the United States. True, it took them longer to get to the United States, but they are in the United States. So what's needed is you have to punish the people who did not abide by the law, but that doesn't necessarily have to be deportation. You can punish them in other ways. You can fine them. You can call upon them to provide community service, for example, 500 hours of community service, as a way for them not to be given, but to earn the right to work and eventually to become permanent residents. In that way, you can compensate those who did not get in as fast as these people, but who do not have to be punished. But these people can be punished in those kinds of ways to kind of equalize the equation. So
Question.
these are the ways that you could deal with it.
Before you go ahead, Davim, get one question.
Go ahead.
So, I've been in the country for 10 years. I've been working for 10 years. I have my family. I started my family. I've done things like, I've integrated in the society. I played sports, all of these things. But I'm still not documented. What is the first step to getting documented?
Well, there has to be a change in the law, because right now there is no law to enable you to get documented. That's why I'm telling you about these considerations that smart leaders in America need to take into account to create a path to U.S. citizenship, which, some people, that drives them nuts that someone's actually saying they should get a path to U.S. citizenship. But not just, okay, well, come on in, you're going to have U.S. citizenship. No. Make it possible for someone to earn their right to work, get permanent residence, and ultimately citizenship in the United States. The wrong way to go is what they're doing. Why is it the wrong way? Because what's going to happen is they're going to arrest all these people. Now, of the 11 million people we're talking about 1.5 million are actual criminals, rapists, murderers, drug dealers, and so on. Out. I don't think there's a person in America or elsewhere who would question, should we get rid of these people? No, yes, we should. We got to get them out. We're not interested in those people. But, that's not part of what this discussion is about. It's the rest of the people. The other people who are, now, there's a thing in law, and I'm sorry, I'm being sort of like a lot too long on this, but I'm almost done. There's a difference between a criminal offense and a civil violation. You are not a criminal if you speed in your car and you get caught and you're given a fine to pay. You're not a criminal if you park your car in the wrong area and you get a parking ticket and you pay. These are not criminal offenses. These are civil offenses. If someone comes into the United States and overstays his visitor's visa and is now an undocumented immigrant, that is not a criminal offense. It's an offense. It's a civil offense, but they're not criminals. Criminals are people who break the criminal law, or people who enter the country illegally, such as entry without inspection. Iwi, it's called entry without inspection, such as crawling across the Rio Grande River south of, the United States and getting across the border and jumping in. That's illegal, and that is criminal. But for these other people who came in, they were a student, they overstayed their student status, and now 10 years later or 15 years later, they're being called criminals. And when Trump is trying to deport these people, he's calling everybody a criminal. He's deporting criminals, and he makes no distinction between a fentanyl dealer who's killing people's lives, rapists, murderers, kidnappers from that group, and these other people who are not perfect and have, committed a civil wrong, but who otherwise merit special consideration. And indeed, economically, which comes back to Devaine's first question here, it economically makes no sense to arrest all these 11 million people. And what are you going to do with them? Put them into, guess what? Internment camps. Not concentration camps yet, but internment camps, so that what they were was positive, contributing, tax-paying, creating and growing people in the country. You pull them out of there and you put them into a camp where now you have to pay their food, clothing, shelter, and subsidize their life while you figure out what are we going to do with these people, and eventually come to the conclusion, wait a minute, we got to come up with a policy that makes sense. And there's this little adage that about who should throw the first stone, that comes into play also in terms of the consideration involved. So anyway, that's my sort of spiel regarding
And
that.
some would argue, because someone has to argue against your logic as well. Some would argue that if you put these programs in place, it would only encourage more people to come there. You didn't say illegally, or try to cross the border illegally, because they know that this is a path. It worked for some, so they're trying to discourage that to some extent. How do you put that in place so people still prefer to go by the legal means? Because I know as a lawyer, you will always probably encourage people, hey, coming through the legal route, it's much easier. Let's do that. But people are going to be like, can't afford a lawyer, I can't do that. But if I jump across the border and they have this program, and just know I have to tough it out for 10 years and then I'll get some citizenship or something.
Okay, well, from the point of view of enforcing, like the leaders that are trying to come up with a policy, I think the answer is what's being argued for is perfection. And perfection is impossible. But excellence, or some policy that's short of perfect but is very good, is what you got to be after. That the criminal justice system does not catch every criminal and punish every criminal is no reason to condemn the criminal justice system.
True.
That the immigration system does not catch every immigrant who's trying to get into the United States illegally is no reason to condemn the immigration system. We have to do the best we can. There will always be, it's a fact, and it will always be a fact, there will always be people who come illegally, somehow, under the fence, over the fence, around the fence, whatever way it is. That's a fact. But we can do our best to enforce the laws and catch those who are coming through and ensure that they are dealt with. And part of the issue is you have to deal with these people right on the spot. You can't put them in a lineup and say, well, we'll deal with you in 5 years from now. You need judges and people who can enforce the law right on the spot. So they can say, oh, I want to claim asylum. You say, okay, where are you from? What are you afraid of? Why are you claiming asylum? Yes or no? If yes, okay, you're in. If no, get out. We're kicking you out because you're not an asylee.
So now you're saying
With
they're being
justice.
placed in stasis for years while things are being processed. Obviously, we can't argue about a system because, as you said, there's no perfect system.
Yeah.
One system that has recently popped up is Donald Trump saying that, or putting in policy that undocumented people need to report and register themselves in a system as being undocumented.
Right.
Is there a benefit to this, and what are the effects of this? And do you recommend undocumented immigrants to do this?
This is like declaring anybody who's ever had a parking ticket, please register. We want to know about it. Well, are you going to go out and register because you had a parking ticket? Well, maybe you didn't pay the parking ticket. Maybe you had a speeding ticket. You didn't pay it. So you're going to register now because someone declares. It's the same kind of a thing. What it is that, forgive me, but it's a childish way to deal with a serious problem. Like, let's deal with human beings as human beings and not as children. You think that, you can push these people around and, is any intelligent human being going to line up to sign? If you sign up, you're on their list and they're deporting everyone. Are you crazy? You're going to sign up to get deported? Maybe if you're a criminal and you killed 5 people, well, sign up for sure.
Criminals sign up first.
But if you're a normal person, are you going to go sign up? And they're going to hold that against these people. They're going to catch these people and say, did you sign up? No? Okay, now we're going to punish you because you didn't sign up. That's the idea. But this is childish. Like, it's juvenile thinking. I don't know where they're coming up with these ideas. But anyway.
Honestly, anyone with half a brain would not go sign up for that. Come
but,
on, who's gonna?
Forgive me. I'm just going to jump into the question a little bit more. One of the reasons why there are people running and trying to get into the United States is because economically and politically elsewhere things are not so good. And if you're the richest country in the world, your job is to make things easier for people so they don't have to escape their country and come to the United States. The reason that why they are escaping is because, gangsters, criminals, dope dealers, etc., are running the countries where they're coming from. You can't have a safe life. You can't grow up. You can't raise a family, and you can't make a living for yourself there. So, surprise, they're on your doorstep. Well, if you're going to think just about yourself, it's all about me, America, America first, etc. And it's not about you or others. Well, you're going to have a lot of people on your doorstep because they don't have any place to live. Like, their lives are hell. And you've made them, in part, you've helped to make them hell.
So you're saying this immigration crisis is self-inflicted to some extent?
To some extent, yes.
Okay.
America needs to play a leadership role in the world. And right now, they're juveniles and childish.
Okay.
I don't know what's happened, but, the leadership role they played is gone. Right now, everybody's scrambling.
I think they are more, as you said, America first, concentrated on what they can get for themselves, what the elites can get for themselves.
Yeah.
They have put themselves in a position where they're like, oh, we've extracted so much from the world. We don't really need these people anymore. We've got their resources. We have the contracts for it. As you said, Ukraine has 27 trillion of resources. Russia is trying to get that.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't we take some of that as well?
Yeah.
And let's put some pressure on that. So it kind of makes sense. Like, growing up, my dad always tell me, anytime you see someone doing good, look at that person a little extra, see what they're getting in return. Because America does things when it has an interest. Any good that America does, no offense to Americans listening, no country out there, the USAID programs that they cancel and stuff like that, they had agendas. They had rhetorics that they wanted to push in these countries. They had reasons for donating this money. They did not just come up and do it out of the goodness of their heart.
Yeah.
It was all done in a way so they can get something. And that's a little bit of my rant. It pisses me off.
There's a philosophy that works in this area, and it's I admire this guy named Zig Ziglar, who he's dead now, but he was a great speaker in the United States, and he had this philosophy. He said, "You can get anything in life that you want, so long as you help enough other people get what they want."
Yeah.
So that's one kind of life and philosophy. The other kind that we're seeing in America is, give me what I want, and to hell with everybody else.
It has definitely been a switch.
It's a problem of philosophy. How you think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not everybody in America. America is a beautiful country, and there's a lot of good in America, and it's overcome some of the most titanic challenges. The mere fact that they elected Barack Obama, for example, and the Civil War, and before that slavery, that's amazing progress. That a country could do that, just to name one example. That Johnson was able to implement Kennedy's entire civil rights agenda as Kennedy wrote it when he became president after Kennedy was killed, was another amazing achievement. There are things like that the Civil War was fought and won by, Lincoln and the North, and that there were guys like Ulysses Grant, who fought the war, was a general, and later became president of the United States. And the steps that he took to defeat the racism, the hatred, the Ku Klux Klan, and all these raving, ugly people.
But
these are examples of America's greatness, that they were able to do that. That people from all over the world came to the United States.
Yeah,
and make a go of it.
Andy, personally, I think America had a marketing campaign for their capitalistic structure that made it seem like they are the greatest country on earth, and they went around the world selling that to people, and people bought it, and now the people are going there to live the American dream, and now they're trying to kick the people out for trying to live the American dream, that they went into these countries, to some extent pillaged some of these countries, and now they're totally against it. So I would say they've made progress, but progress without it being constant, it just becomes regression. I think Malcolm X once said, like, if you get stabbed in the gut, if you get stabbed in the gut by a 12-inch knife and you pull it out 6 inches, that's not real progress, because there's still 6 inches of a knife stuck in you. If you pull it out all the way, you're still bleeding and the person still has a knife. Yeah. So,
well, if you're, this, it's impossible in a conversation such as this to get into enough.
There's a lot of nuance to it, but I'm just trying to share, like, they have made progress, but then it's like, what's the real progress? People are still suffering. It's back and forth. There's no.
But then you got to put it into context. So one context is, name a country that's perfect.
That's the thing. There's no perfect country on this planet, no perfect government, no perfect system. Compare
the U.S. with all its troubles and so on to other countries, and you see, well, it's not that bad. It's right now it's not doing very well, but it's had its days, and maybe it could still have some good days ahead. We'll see.
And I definitely see that. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic for the future. Tony can tell you, I'm more optimistic than him. And I do believe that people are inherently good, no matter who you are. I just think sometimes that get overshadowed by greed and selfish desires. But I do think people are inherently good, no matter who they are. Right, Tonio, questions. You been so quiet, bro. You're never this
Yeah,
quiet.
you're taking all the questions from me.
Oh, I have some more questions as well, but if you have any questions, jump
I've,
in, man.
I want to know, Andy, what do you think is the biggest flaw in Trump's immigration policies?
Well, that's a good question. Um, the motivation, his motivation for what he's doing,
It
and
doesn't.
as best as I can read it, it's self-oriented.
So
I
it's
don't
not coming
think
from a good place.
no, I don't think so. I'm fearful for the influence that bad actors have in the United States and in the political system from outside, not to mention those inside. Um, and it's a struggle. It's going to be a real struggle to straighten things out. Um, but, listen, the guy's been convicted of a criminal, well, more than one criminal offense. He has been impeached. There's like he's a philanderer. He seems to be a racist. I think he is a racist, or at least he's certainly not tolerant. Let's put it that way. I mean, if you go down his record, there are people who have, like he's a liar, he's a cheater.
So you're saying he's not a worthy candidate.
I don't think so. Can you actually imagine a country electing someone who's been convicted of criminal offenses?
Yeah,
Like, what country is this?
that's unthinkable. That's
America.
unthinkable.
And
That's
especially a country who believes in the rule of law, like that it applies equally to everyone. And you got a criminal in the White House, like flat criminal in the White House, a convicted criminal in the White House. Like the people who support him, I gotta wonder how, like, what are they thinking? How is it possible?
as you said before. Like they have bad actors and they have vested interest in him
Yeah.
being in power. If you get someone that is morally corrupt, they're gonna make decisions that favor their friends to benefit them,
Yeah.
and they're happy with that. Some questions that our audience had for you, though, Andy. One thing is Trump also said that about he's trying to revoke birthright citizenship. I
Yes.
know a lot of people, a lot of families, a woman would get pregnant, and in the 9 month she would take a flight to go on vacation and have the baby in America, and that baby would have American citizenship. Is this something that he can change?
Well, constitutionally, no. And like personally, I oppose getting on a plane when you're 8 months pregnant to come to the United States to get born, have a child born to be an American. I think that's the wrong approach. But that's not, that's a policy matter that could be addressed without changing birthright as a constitutional right that people have. If you're
Okay.
born in the United States, brother or sister, you are an American, and you will be, as far as I know, for a
Okay.
long time.
Perfect. And what would you tell? Let's say I had a cousin in New York, afraid to go outside now, afraid that he'll be stopped by ICE,
Yeah.
afraid that ICE will show up at his door. What advice would you give to him?
Okay. Well, one good thing I would say is contact an immigration lawyer so you have a connection to an immigration lawyer now before you are confronted with, who are you and what are you doing, right?
Is this friendly advice, or is this like lawyer to client advice?
No, this is lawyer to client advice. Well, my
It's
advice
good
is,
advice.
but I can't, there's a standard rider that all lawyers use, which is don't rely on my advice as client solicitor or lawyer attorney client type of it. I'm not your attorney. I'm not
Yeah.
your lawyer by saying these things on this program. But I'm man on the street to man on the street talking about an important topic. I'm a man, you're a
Mhm.
man or woman or whatever. We're talking about an important topic. It's at that level I'm talking. So I would say number one is you need an ace in your deck, or in the back pocket, and one ace is to have an immigration lawyer as someone that you know and you've talked to.
Mm.
But more generally, there are some rights you need to know. So the first right is you can keep your mouth shut. You have the right to remain silent, right? You don't have to say, "Oh, I'm illegal. I came here, 3 months ago, and forgive me, help me out." No, no, no. If you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to refuse any questions that people ask you, especially if you're in your home. Nobody has the right to ask you any questions. If someone's knocking on your door and starts asking you questions, no, 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 you don't have to say a word. And if you are detained,
Hold on. Do you have to let them in the house?
no, no, unless they show you a warrant. Now, you don't have to open the door to have them show you the warrant. You can say, slip it under the door, or can I see it through the window? But you don't have to open the house for them to show you the warrant. But you can say, they say, well, we want in. You say, well, no, you're not right. Do you have a warrant? A warrant. Now, they say, well, yeah, here's a warrant right here. Then you got to ask, okay, I want to see the warrant. Now, what you're looking for is your name properly spelled and there on the warrant, number one. And number two, is it a search warrant? Because the only kind of warrant that would enable a police officer or anybody to come into your house is a search warrant, not an ICE deportation warrant. No, no, no. It has to be a search warrant, and it has to be signed by a judge. So three things. Is your name properly in there? Is it a search warrant? And is it signed by a judge? Can you actually see an actual signature by a judge? If you
Okay.
have all three, then you do have to open, because a court has decided on evidence given to them before they came to your house that you should be authorized, the police should be authorized to enter your house. So
Okay.
if they show you such a warrant, then you have to enter.
Okay.
But you
And
still don't have to say a word. And if they say something, you say, I want to talk to my lawyer.
and what phase of the process is them coming to your door? Is that at the start of them trying to, get you documented or trying to get you out, or is that the last thing that they do?
Well, I think what's happening at that stage is they've decided, okay, this guy, whatever his name is, lives at this address. Let's go get him. We're going to deport him.
Yeah. What happens in the deportation process, and can it be stopped once initiated?
That's lawyer. That's the area of a lawyer. That's what a lawyer does for a living.
Oh, okay.
There are limits to what I know. I'm not God. I don't know everything.
Okay.
And if you're going to court, and that's kind of a interplay here between criminal and immigration law in some instances. So, for example, if you committed a criminal offense, now we're dealing with criminal law. A criminal offense might be, you broke down a door, or you robbed someone, or whatever it might be, and they're trying to arrest you for that. Or even if you cross the Rio Grande at night to get into the United States over the southern border and entered without inspection, that is to say, you got in and nobody caught you. That's a criminal offense.
Oh,
You
okay.
have to enter properly.
Okay.
So put it this way: all you can say is, "I want to talk to a lawyer," and they say, "Well, you don't have. What lawyer do you want?" I say, "I don't know what. Can you please give me a list of lawyers that I could call?" And you're
Oh,
right. You have a right to call a lawyer, a phone call, to talk to someone. and say, hey, I'm in here in jail, come get me.
Okay. All right. Let's say my cousin gets picked up. He was stupid enough to not read that they didn't really have a search warrant. Didn't ask for a lawyer. He gets deported. But he has a house, he has a car, he has property in the US. What happens to that property? Does he lose access to it? Does he lose all his property?
Well, the answer is the property remains his because he bought it or whatever, so whatever's in there is his, but he's going to have to arrange somehow to either sell it or return to the United States or have someone represent him in trying to deal with the property. This is the way you would have to look after those things. Or maybe you're deported, but your spouse remains behind, so she could look after it, or vice versa. Or a child who's already older and could look after it and was born in the United States.
Okay.
These are the kind of things you could deal with.
Okay. Recently in Jamaica, we had a artist, Buju Banton. He served a 10-year sentence and was let out on parole for a drug charge, right? Then he was deported to Jamaica quite soon afterwards. As soon as he was released, he was deported on being released, right?
Right.
However, we thought that once you've served a prison sentence and have a criminal record, you would not be eligible to return to the States. But he was granted a visa to not only return as a visitor, but also to work as an artist in the States afterwards. How can something like that happen? Or is this
You
is this
apply
common?
for what's called a waiver of inadmissibility. And depending on your circumstances and the crime involved, you can get permission to come into the United States to do things like virtually every guy who's in a band, not everyone, but a lot of them are, have been convicted of smoking marijuana or taking cocaine or whatever it is. There are a lot, especially in the entertainment industry, that's pretty common. So these people have to get what's called waivers, which is basically you apply in advance of coming to the country for a waiver of the fact that you're inadmissible because you have a criminal offense. And the system goes, okay, well, all right. Especially if you're high profile and you got a concert, let's say at Maple Leaf Gardens or somewhere.
Yeah, Madison Square Gardens.
Yeah, or whatever.
Some arenas.
So you're coming in. All right, well, we'll let you in for that concert because there's like 100,000 people there waiting for you to sing the national anthem or whatever it is. They say, okay, well, we'll give you permission to come in.
Okay. And we have a lot of Jamaican artists that they have their visas taken away, work permits taken away from them, and then re-granted. It's the same process. They just apply for a waiver, or they just wait until a certain time frame to reapply.
Yeah, if you've been on the wrong side of something, like improperly entered or whatever, and you've been told you got to leave, usually a 6-month delay and then reapplying can clean up what's wrong. If it's minor Mickey Mouse kind of stuff, not if you went around killing people with an axe or something, but if let's say you applied and they didn't like the fact that you couldn't prove that you'd leave at the end of your period of authorized stay, you don't have enough connections back to Jamaica, such as, family, house, bank account, car, job. You apply and they say, well, no, we're not going to let you in because we think you're coming in to stay or going to work illegally. So we're not going to let you come.
Okay.
So now you're back in Jamaica because you didn't get in. What do? You have to wait probably about 6 months.
6 months.
Then you can apply again and see if you can get through that way again.
What are the main things the consulate considers when granting U.S. or Canadian visa? What are the main things that the thresholds that you have to reach in order to be granted a visa?
Okay. So here's what they're thinking. Number one, are you a terrorist? You're going to blow up the World Trade Center. Number two, are you a criminal? Are you bringing, cocaine into the country and you're going to be selling cocaine or whatever? Number three, if we let you in is there a reason to believe you're going to leave at the end of your period of authorized stay? Like, do you have connections back home? Do you have a home back home? Like, is there a reason for you to return? Like, if you have a house and you have a spouse and you have children and you have a car and you have a job and you pay taxes and, and whatever, now you got reasons to go back home. But if you're coming, they say, where do you work? Well, I'm not working right now. Oh, really? What's wrong? I'm unemployed. Oh, where do you live? Well, I rent a room at my uncle's house. Oh, really? What do you do? Well,
You sound like you're at the consulate. You be like, oh really? Yeah, no belief, zero belief. Like you're just planning to run off. You know the
Oh my
concept of the
God.
term run
so
off.
that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So they're scared about, well, we'll let you in. This guy's never going to leave. He's going to work illegally. And the other thing is they're thinking, if we let this guy in, is he just telling us a good tale, but really he lives in the United States or plans to live in the United States forever?
Okay.
So he's being real nice at the border or at the consulate, but really this is all a big fairy tale. He's actually going to live in the U.S. and we'll never see him again because he's going to hide somewhere in New Orleans or wherever it is, and we'll never see him again.
What would you suggest to someone that wants to immigrate to the U.S. or Canada legally? What would you say would be the best path for them?
Well, there are 5 ways to immigrate to the United States or Canada. We'll go through them. And listen, I'm running out of time, so
this will be the last question and we'll wrap up. We're good.
So 5 ways to immigrate. Okay, number 1, marry your way in or have family members that will sponsor you. Okay. So if you find a spouse or you develop a relationship, a real relationship, and that spouse is an American or a Canadian or whatever, they can sponsor you to come in. That's good. Fine. Or your mother is there and she sponsors you, or whatever. People like that. That's number 1. Number 2 is invest your way in. So, for example, right now there's a program called the EB-5 program, and if you invest $800,000 US for a period of, let's say, 5 years or even shorter, you can get a green card, permanent residence.
Yeah, I think.
But you have to invest for 5 years. You get your money back at the end of 5 years, and you have to show that you've created. Yeah, you get your money's back, and you have to show you've created 10 jobs as an investor.
I think Trump mentioned a new one as well. The $5 million buy, like a golden ticket.
Golden ticket. He's planning that. There's a long way between now and the golden card. That a few years, I would say. It's not going to happen soon. But the EB-5 green card route is viable right now. You could get it, but you have to have $800,000 US and prove that it's like a source that's legitimate, not from a string of prostitutes that work for you. But for
depends on the country, it might be legitimate, Andy. Depends on the country. Some countries it will be legitimate.
Okay, so that's 2. There's I mentioned first, marry your way in. Second is invest your way in. Third way is claim asylum. If you are really someone who's fleeing your country of origin and you have a well-founded fear of persecution based on what are traditional grounds, race, religion, political opinion, nationality, social origin, for example, LGBTQ might be someone that might be qualified. If you have this legitimate fear, you can claim asylum and you can stay based on a finding of that you're a refugee, that you've fled your home country and you've come because you're afraid to return. The only problem with that one is it's very narrow, it's not for everybody. It's not, I'm a refugee.
Can you leave the country after that? Can you go back to your home country?
No, you can't. not until you get a green card. And after you get a green card, even then it's, when you go for citizenship, they'll ask, well, just a minute. Right after you got a green card, you went right straight back to your country of origin. What was that? Like, if you were afraid of going back, how is it that you went right back?
Oh, okay.
So there's a problem. So that's number 3. There are 2 left. Okay. We've dealt with marrying your way in, investing your way in, claiming asylum, refugee. 2 left. One is study your way in. Get accepted to a university or college in the United States and go to study there. And then from there, you go to what's called OPT, after graduation work permit, for a year. And after that to what's called H-1B work visa. And after that to green card. And then after that to citizenship. It's a long and narrow, thorny road, but it's doable.
How long is it from green card to citizenship?
From green card to citizenship, it requires you've been a green card holder for 5 years, and that at least half of that time you've been physically present in the United States. That's eligibility.
Okay.
It takes about a year to get citizenship that way, naturalization. Yeah. So we've covered now 4. The remaining one is work your way in. Now, if you're a brain surgeon, or you're an astronaut, or you're a nuclear physicist, or you're someone of that caliber, it's easier. But let's say you're not that caliber. If you've got the equivalent of a bachelor's degree or higher, the equivalent. So let's say you went to school or college in Spain and you got a bachelor's degree. Now, it can't be just a Bachelor of Arts degree. It has to be in something serious, like commerce or science or, I don't know, accounting or some kind of a
technical
specific,
skill.
Yeah, technical skill. If you got that, then you can apply for what's called an H-1B work visa. But you need a job offer.
Okay, which is tough.
Now, if you're a genius, or let's say you're Drake, or let's say you're Lady Gaga, or
Kendrick.
Yeah, Kendrick. There you go. Or you know the story there, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh boy. Then the door opens for you. If you're at the top of your calling, whatever it may be. Maybe you're a model, or maybe you're an astronaut, or an actress, or a football star, or a basketball star, or whatever it is. The door opens for you. It's called a O1 visa. And also you can get green card from it. But you have to be at the very top of your calling. And then there's one final one this is a bonus entry for guys like you. If you're born in Jamaica or some other countries, but not like China or India or the Philippines, then you can apply for the diversity green card lottery. And there's, I think it's 55,000 a year of people who are chosen in a lottery that are given the right to come to the United States. I think it's 55,000 a year.
55,000 people are chosen.
Yeah.
Or
from a lottery. From a lottery.
Don't mention that to Trump, man. Don't mention that one, Andy. Don't let him take away. That's 55,000 people.
Don't speak too low. Don't speak too low. He's listening.
Don't let him put Doge on the case. Doge would say lottery, cancel.
I'll tell you this. I'm walking down the street in Los Angeles, and I look, and there's a guy I talked, a client from Fiji, who's on the street. I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I won the green card lottery." My son, Mark, who's a lawyer in New York, married a Polish girl. How'd she get there? Well, I won the green card lottery.
How do you enter that though? Because I've heard about it, but I don't know. How do someone sign up for that?
Okay. This is the last thing we're going
to... Sorry for giving, but it's interesting for me.
So look up diversity green card lottery. Google that. You got all the answers. Diversity, meaning it was implemented because they noticed, to put it this way, actually, this is the honest truth. too many white guys are getting in, not enough, from Africa and places like that. Like, what the hell's going on? So they did a study and they figured out, well, the immigrant rich countries like China and India and stuff like that have tons of people coming in, but countries from other parts of the world are not represented. And that's skewing the population. Like, it's not diverse. It's, so they said, well, we got to level this out. So we're going to create this diversity green card lottery. And sure enough, they did. And it's been going for years. And there's hatred of it. I'll tell you, you're right. Trump hates it. And they've been trying to abolish it for years. But I'm a big supporter of it. I love it. I think it's great. And then my opponents argue, oh, you're taking away jobs from astronauts and physics professors and giving them
to random people.
And I say, yes, because that's the way America should be. It should be consisting of all kinds of people from all over the world, not just these, like
out of many one people.
Yeah. But you know what, Tony, this program that is getting axed. I'm surprised he probably doesn't realize
they
it.
Can't get rid of it. Every time they try, they just can't get it. And I'm happy for it.
All right, Andy. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks for joining
let
us.
the people know how they can reach you in case they need some legal advice. They want to contact you for other podcasts as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. You can reach me at pacelawfirm.com. That's my web, the law firm where I work. Pace, P-A-C-E, pacelawfirm.com. Now, I'm an author. I've written 4 books. We didn't talk about it, but I'm an author.
Next time.
If you're interested in reading any of my books, you just look up Andy Semotiuk, and the name is spelled Semotiuk, Andy Semotiuk, on Amazon. Look up Andy Semotiuk on Amazon. You'll find my books. And one other thing, if you still can't find my books, there's my personal website. It's called myworkvisa.com, myworkvisa.com. And my books are listed there, and also stuff about me. Loved being on your program.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Discussion enormously.
I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming on. Especially we got this together in 2-3 days. It was good. It was good. I enjoyed talking to you. I'm pretty sure we'll get more questions because people will have questions that we didn't get to ask, but hopefully they'll ask in the comments and stuff like that.
If I ever get out to Spain, I'm going to look you guys up.
Yeah, definitely. The first round is on us. The first round is on us.
Okay. Take care.
Right. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.